Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, sir.
It's time for another episode of Betting the W. Today is Friday, April 7th, and the Betting the W crew has been invited to the White House. Can you believe it, guys? They're just inviting anybody these days.
Second best women's sports podcast out there.
Right. We haven't made it to the top yet. We worked real hard to get here. If you don't know what I'm referencing, that's a surprise, because I'd be surprised that you're listening to this podcast. But after the Women's National Championship game last weekend, Dr. Joe Biden was in attendance, which was cool to see. But after the game, she made a horrible PR move. I don't think she even officially extended the invite. She just said she wanted to invite both LSU and Iowa to the White House. Now, if you're not familiar with American sports tradition, usually a champion of a league visits the White House to be congratulated and whatnot. Not the runner-up. As far as I know, that has never, ever happened.
Yeah.
And I think her heart was in the right place, wanting to celebrate female athletes. But this is not the way to do it, because it really it felt patronizing.
Yeah, and there's just no awareness from Dr. Jill here, the First Lady.
The Vice Lady.
You got to know the situation, especially with the two teams that were playing.
Absolutely. The story of the game was competitiveness.
Yeah. So let's go celebrate the sport.
Right, let's go celebrate competitiveness by getting them together and celebrating them both equally. It's like a participation trophy for Iowa. They don't want that. Yeah. They know they lost. They're proud of the season they had, but they're not going to celebrate at the White House.
Exactly.
And they're not going to celebrate a runner-up.
Exactly. And for anyone that doesn't know him, our professor, Dr. Joseph Cooper, he put out a great piece with the conversation about how race plays into that and how race plays into all of sports narratives.
Yes.
Really. So if you haven't seen it, check it out for sure.
Big plug for Dr. C. But yeah, it's kind of blown over now. It's kind of cool and also a little bit annoying that the conversation has gone on this long. Just means people are talking about women's sports, which is cool.
I'm talking about it in a way, like men's sports will be covered this way.
Right, absolutely.
Women's sports will be covered this way. It's a good thing.
Absolutely, big time. But now it looks like Angel Reese initially declined the opportunity to go to the White House. She was not happy about the double invitation.
Yeah.
Iowa obviously declined. But Angel Reese was not happy. But she's been on every show on TV this week. Yeah. She went on SportsCenter this morning and said that she was going to go with the team because the team accepted the invite. So it seems like they're past that. It's going to be a tough day for Kim Mulkey. You have to feel for her. Last time,
I know. I thought she just sent the players.
Right. We'll see.
Have fun, y'all.
We'll see if the coaching staff shows up with the team. But just kind of cool to see a week-long conversation about the women's championship game. Yeah. And it didn't have to do with coaches this time.
And shout out Angel Reese passing 1 million on TikTok and Instagram.
Dude. We were talking about this earlier this week, but you shared the infographic about how many Instagram followers these different women's basketball stars have gained during March Madness. And the thing that stood out to me most was that FloJ was already really famous before March Madness. She already had about 900,000 followers because it showed before March Madness and after. Angel Reese is obviously one now. FloJ is a close second, but she had 900,000 where everyone else had maybe 300,000. But Angel Reese, FloJ, over 1 million. I won't be surprised if Caitlin Clark gets there soon.
I know. I'm surprised that she was only around the 600K mark. Yeah. Especially after this tournament. It felt like every narrative was about her.
Oh, definitely. So that's cool to see. Women's stars getting their shine. In other sports, we have kind of a dominant number one in each softball and lacrosse. So been catching up on some new sports now that basketball is over.
Yeah.
In softball, everyone has some weird losses. Mm-hmm. Everyone has at least one loss. Everyone has more than one loss except Oklahoma. And before last night, Clemson also had one loss. Was riding hard on the Clemson train. I got to see them play last weekend. They're an excellent team. Yesterday was tough. They had a doubleheader against Florida State, and the lights were a little too bright for Clemson. At home too. At home, it looks like ACC play is going to be a bit of a challenge, and I'm definitely worried about FSU come tournament time. And I thought that Clemson was going to be that team that challenges Oklahoma. Now I'm not so sure. I don't know that there is a team that is necessarily going to challenge Oklahoma.
That's what I was going to say. I don't feel like anyone can challenge Oklahoma.
Right.
It might be a different thing come March. I'm so hoop spring. Come the tournament.
Yeah.
There we go.
I think right now the number 2 team is Oklahoma State, who, again, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State play in the season finale. That's going to be epic. But, Oklahoma State just lost their second game to Wichita State, who's a good team. They are ranked, but they're ranked 25th. Mm-hmm. So, while if you're going to challenge Oklahoma, you can't drop stupid games like that, if we're being perfectly honest. UCLA is still hanging out near the top. Tennessee is a really good team. Similar to Clemson, good pitching staff, really good offense. And last thing on Clemson, I'm not burying them yet. I think they have a chance to bounce back. I think they still have the best player in the country. Yeah. If they don't make a correction, she's not going to win any awards. But Val Cagle is their ace pitcher and their home run, their slugger. I don't have her stats pulled up, but I was looking last night. They obviously, she obviously had a rough game last night, but going into last night, she had a 0.44 ERA in the circle, second in the country, and she had 14 home runs, which is top 10, and a top 5 slugging percentage too. Just absolutely dominant. And I really hope that Clemson makes the corrections, and now they've kind of it's a bit of a wake-up call that they played FSU and kind of got upset there. And as far as lacrosse goes, ACC is the best conference in the country. They have the most teams ranked right now, and the number 1 team is Syracuse. They're undefeated. They have not lost. We were expecting maybe a UNC, a BC to come out of the ACC, but now it's looking like the team to challenge is Syracuse. Big Orange. There are a lot of good games coming up, and this is cool because these two sports at the same time are kind of getting to their postseason. So very soon there are going to be, there's meaningful games going on now, but there are going to be playoff games coming up soon.
There we go.
Big implications. Love playoff time. When the weather gets warmer and there's playoff lacrosse and playoff softball and playoff college baseball too on the TV, best time of the year. Yeah. Best time of the year. So now, let's go. Now that we've gone off basketball for about 5 seconds, let's get right back to basketball.
And you wonder why I said March.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, because the wonderful calendar of women's basketball does not stop. Mm-hmm. It marches ever on. The draft is coming up. What day is it? Actually, in all my 10th. Research, I didn't look up when it is. April 10th.
3 days.
So we have 3 days. The championship was last weekend. We have until April 10th to prepare for the WNBA draft. And there are a few different ways you could go, but probably the top story is going to be number 1. We don't have to talk about it for too long because it's a consensus number 1.
Yeah,
we know who's going number 1. It's going to be Aaliyah Boston. I saw some people...
Are we sure?
I'm pretty sure. Nothing's guaranteed, but I feel pretty good about this pick. I saw some people had odds. I don't know what book they were using. I was
trying to find it so we could talk about them.
I was seeing on WNBA Twitter, somebody had odds on first overall pick. I was like, really?
Minus what, 10,000?
Something like that.
100,000?
Yeah, give me that. Give me that heavy favorite. I'll put net worth play on Aaliyah Boston 1-1. Because the nature of pro sports drafts is at this point, it's never really a secret.
Yeah.
Who's going number 1?
Except for the NFL.
Right. Yeah. Well, when you have a talent pool that's not that talented, it's kind of okay, we don't know exactly, but WNBA, this year's NBA draft, NFL a few years ago, we know who's gonna be number 1.
Yeah. Well, I know who's going number 1 in any draft I have.
Jesus Christ.
Never mind.
So, at 2, Aaliyah Boston's 2.
Yeah.
But as far as the big board goes, who's at number 2? It's not a consensus, but there's definitely a heavy favorite.
As close to a consensus as it can be.
Right. It's not quite a lock, but it looks like Diamond Miller is going to be going 2nd overall. How do you feel? Would you take Diamond Miller, Or would you take the field in this?
100% Diamond Miller.
Yeah.
I think this draft class got really weak.
Yes.
With all the COVID year reclassing.
Absolutely.
And just not performing the way we thought people would.
Definitely.
I think Diamond Miller for sure. Number 2, I think Aaliyah Boston and Diamond Miller are honestly like the only real star potential players here.
I think, there has to be more good players, but they're going to be surprise players.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's like, lock it in. These players are going to be
exactly
the ones to watch. I agree. I think Diamond Miller, and I don't. What do you think at 3? Like outside of the top 2, what are you thinking next? If someone was to challenge at 2.
Someone was to challenge at 2, I think it's got to be Horston.
Okay.
I saw a lot of Maddie Segrist love on a lot of mocks. I think it has to be Horston.
Okay. I like that. I would go, and I'm not thinking like from an evaluations perspective. I'm thinking about like who would they take.
Mm-hmm.
I think teams are really going to love Haley Jones.
Yeah.
She has the one big shortcoming in her shooting. She is a big guard with great passing skills, like can make plays. Obviously, Stanford fell really short in the tournament. But I think Haley Jones is a name and a brand that I think WNBA teams tend to look for a lot. She's very marketable, which is big. And she does have a skill set that is, it's somewhat rare. It's somewhat, not quite a unicorn, but it would be nice to add to your roster.
Yeah. But the only thing about Haley Jones that I see is when I think big guard that can really only play offense in transition, there's only one name that comes to mind as a Philly fan.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of Ben Simmons and Haley Jones.
Oh, whoa, that's a big comparison.
Which, like, if Haley Jones can hit that first few years, Ben Simmons, like...
Right, if Ben Simmons...
That's good.
Ben Simmons' peak was fantastic.
Yeah, but just what I've seen from Haley Jones, I'm not in love with.
Okay. And again, I definitely have doubts about Haley Jones. I think names mean a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, let's talk about, you already mentioned her, let's talk about a player that might go too high. I was going to ask, but I think we have the same player in mind. I think that Maddie Segrist is going to be... So a team's going to jump on her too early.
Yeah.
So your mock on the next hoops, she's going 6.
Yeah.
ESPN has her going 5. I saw Just Women's Sports, I think, had her at 3.
3, yeah.
So,
I saw a lot of lottery love for Maddie Segrist.
It's looking like she might be a Dallas wing if she goes 5 or 3. If she drops all the way to 6, it would be with Atlanta. But I think first round pick,
for sure.
yes, but not like top 5, top 6. I think here's my doubts about Maddie Segrist is that she did everything at Villanova as the primary scorer.
Mm-hmm.
She needs to be the scorer, and I don't think there's a team. And again, because it's a small league. Like if there were more teams, maybe she could go to an expansion team and be the star right away.
Yep.
These teams all pretty much have their established starters. Dallas has Arike Ogunbowale as an electric scorer. The Mystics have scorers. Everyone on the board, whether they're a good team or not, even the Fever, maybe not the Fever. Maybe not the Fever, but
yeah, maybe not.
Maybe not the Fever. I don't know that anyone needs like a scorer.
Yeah.
And I think over time she could develop into that like leading scorer. But what's she gonna do in the meantime while you have other stars getting buckets for you? What's she gonna do off the bench as a rookie?
Exactly. Here's my problem with a lot of these mocks. It feels like they didn't really watch. Like I can't say I watched so much of all these prospects, but it really feels like a lot of these mocks didn't. Like they go off physical attributes.
Right. Yeah. Physical attributes for sure. And like I said, names. Like what's in a name? Maddie Segrist made a name for herself.
Exactly.
That means a lot. So that kind of got her high on the board. But yeah, I think you and I agree that we like her game. Not sure how it's going to translate to the pros.
Yeah. Every time I think about her, I like her in that 6 to 8 range.
Yeah.
And then I think about the class, and I'm like, well, she's better than these people.
True. Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, really hard for me to say.
It's best available versus fit.
Yeah.
It's how is a team going to draft. And I think a team is going to go with best available and look at her.
Yeah.
For sure. So look for her to go high. I'm interested to see what we see in the first few years of Maddie Segrist. So who, in your mind, kind of had a big tournament. We talked with Hunter Cruz from Locked On Women's Basketball about this, about who we thought was going to have a big tournament. Who do you think is the number one riser?
Number one riser? It has to be Horston, up to 2-3 in my book. I mean, hard to compete there. I also like the Ohio State duo of Berger and Mikesell.
Yep.
I think they had big riser tournaments. Who do you think?
Okay, so this is going to sound kind of crazy because she was already a big name, but I think she just added to her draftability. Zia Cook.
Yeah.
I think Zia Cook showed that any doubts about her size, whatever the other doubts were about her, I think that's probably number one, is that she's just small, but I think she showed that it really doesn't matter. We knew South Carolina was a good team, but she is kind of I'm trying to think of a metaphor. She makes them go. And Aaliyah Boston's obviously the big name, makes the big plays, but Zia Cook, on a regular basis, from the point guard position, is making that offense tick. She's a straw that stirs the drink, is what I was trying to think of. She's a straw that stirs the drink. She is the one who's distributing to those great scorers, and a lot of those opportunities wouldn't happen without her. So,
she's not on most of these mocks.
No, she's not. I think
first round.
Just Women's Sports had her going at 9.
Yeah, I like her to the Storm.
I like that a lot. I think that's a good fit. They're obviously, could use a nice point guard that they've been missing without Sue. Maybe she's the next Sue Bird in Seattle. I think Zia Cook is a great point guard, probably my favorite.
I agree.
Favorite passer. Haley Jones is a good passer, as I mentioned, but I think Zia Cook is a great point guard out of this class, and she kind of erased any doubts that people might have about
Especially where she is there. I also really liked Lou Lopez Seneschal. I mean, UConn didn't have the run they want, but
for sure,
I really like. She's also that fringe first round, second round.
Yep.
I really like her in that spot. I could see her rising a lot, surprising some people.
She's got the maturity. About to be 25 years old.
Hey, you're drafting a season bet, guys.
That's right. Yeah,
you
were
think about
drafting
it like this.
An older person into your locker room. And so let's talk late first round, early second round. Who's a player that's not getting enough attention?
Letitia me here, 100%.
Oh, okay.
100%. Hold on, let me pull it up. I know she's a 6'11" wingspan.
6'11"?
Yeah, 6'11". She's 6'3", 6'4" with a 6'11" wingspan.
That's crazy.
She wreaks havoc in passing lanes.
Man,
she's solid point of attack defender. I mean, the next hoops, I love their draft comparisons. They have her as Herb Jones without a semblance of a jumper.
Semblance of a jumper.
That sounds like Matisse Thybulle to me as a Philly fan. And I just love watching Matisse Thybulle play.
Yeah. Well, we talk about, these teams don't necessarily need scorers.
Exactly.
So who needs a great jumper right now? You want good defense.
Yeah.
And on that note, a similar player, I think, a lot of these South Carolina Gamecocks got buried, under the stardom of Aaliyah Boston and Zia Cook. I think we kind of disagree about this one, it sounds like, but I think Bree Beal is going to go too low. I think that she could be a potential 5-6 level player just because of that, relentless defense.
Yeah.
Do you want a great defender? And actually, ESPN has her mocked to the Fever to stick with Aaliyah. I think that's a good fit because the Fever are younger, a lot of shooters. They could use some good defense.
Yes.
I think that Bree Beal, I knew that she was a great defensive player, but then I watched her more during the tournament. And I was oh, okay, she has an impact, and she disrupts these star players.
Yeah.
So we talk about teams should be focusing less on offense. I think Bree Beal is the player that's defense first, excellent defender.
I think the Fever for sure are taking two Gamecocks here.
Whether
that's Bree Beal or Aaliyah Boston and Bree Beal or Ami here or Cook.
Yeah.
I think somebody's taking two Gamecocks.
Somebody's going to be on the board.
It's going to be the Indiana Gamecocks.
Indiana's going to be so young. They already are so young, but they've got picks and they're just going to get younger again. Is there anyone else that we didn't talk about that you think deserves a mention?
So a lot of people have Steph Suarez way up there, 3-4 range.
Mm-hmm.
Not in love with that.
So she hasn't played in a very long time.
Yeah. And when she
that
did,
makes a difference.
she wasn't playing. She played at JUCO level, went on to Iowa State,
Mm-hmm.
and just got hurt.
Right. So we don't have like tape on her, and we don't know what she does against like high level competition.
Yeah.
6'6", I mean, you can't argue with that. That's, those are great measurables. But like you said, I think they're looking too much at the measurables and not enough at the film, which is not really existent. I think Stephanie Suarez is a good player, but to take a player who hasn't played in like a year at 4 seems dramatic.
You don't want to be taking a flyer at 4.
No, right. You don't want to take a risk. You do not want to swing. It's such a small draft. You do not want to swing and miss on a pick.
And if you don't like your picks this year, or you don't like where you are this year, trade your picks away. Get
Absolutely.
some more next year.
Invest in future picks.
I think even next year, 25 after all the COVID reclass that's going to happen.
Exactly. I think that is the story of this draft.
Yeah.
Is the names that aren't on the board.
Yeah.
Excuse me. From Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, who still have they're a sophomore and a junior, so they still have time to go, and then players who have reclassed to use COVID. Dude, I forgot she was a sophomore.
I thought she was a junior.
That's unreal. Anyway, we'll talk plenty more Angel Reese to come, but there are players like Liz Kitley was a potential first rounder that is now playing another year at Virginia Tech. Like, can you blame her? Like, we talked about Sedona Prince, who hasn't played in a long time. Of course, go back to college, get more tape, be a higher draft pick. Yeah. Also, queen of NIL, so earn more money that way, like 100%. WNBA probably going to need a response after this class.
I mean, you lost so much lottery talent.
Yeah.
Like, you had Charisma Osborne, probably not going to the lottery, but
right,
projected early in the season. It was a lottery pick. Liz Kitley, a lottery pick. They're reclassing to stay in college.
College basketball, women's college basketball is a much better product, much better experience for the players right now.
Yeah.
That's undeniable. So we'll see. This WNBA draft will be very interesting. Excited to see who goes where and who makes an impact when.
Yes.
And before we wrap up, let's get back to our walk-off picks, man. We've been doing so many picks over the last month. We took a break from our walk-off. But let's get back into picking some games, and let's get producer Kate over behind the mic here.
Join the team.
How we doing?
Welcome back, Kate.
Thanks, Max.
So, last time, when we left off,
yes,
none of us were doing great. You and I especially are not doing so hot.
Yeah.
I'm sitting at 6-7. You're at 4-9. Damon's at 8-5. Comfortable.
Yeah.
But we could all stand to improve our records a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's get back on track here.
Here we go.
Kate, what is your pick for this week?
Okay, so every time I don't know what to pick, I resort back to my Boston College Eagles, the lacrosse.
Yep, solid.
And I was looking at their next game. The next game's tomorrow. Notre Dame and Indiana. Notre Dame's taking it.
I was about to agree with you.
I want so badly for them to win, but their record just does not track with Notre Dame's right now, and they're in Indiana. So
they got dog in them now. They have a dog. They have a dog inside of them.
They do.
Pause.
Whoa. Whoa. Listen, I love BC women's lacrosse.
Love them.
I can't stand Notre Dame in any facet, so I mean,
we can agree to disagree
on this one. I was ready to hype you up, but good luck.
Okay.
I hope you are happy in your entire life.
Oh.
I also have a women's LAX pick.
I'm never seeing him again.
We are all doing some ACC lacrosse. Like I mentioned,
ACC runs women's LAX.
It runs women's LAX. I got a big pick. I've become a value hunter. I love a nice plus sign. Had my biggest win of my life on that Iowa plus 500 in the Final Four. I'm still riding the high of that. I've been looking at futures, looking at who has the longest odds, who can I pick, who can I make a bunch of money on. I haven't found any odds on women's lacrosse yet. Travesty, by the way. I would love to bet women's lacrosse. Wake up. Syracuse is the number 1 team in the nation. They have not lost a game.
Uh-huh.
They are at home in the dome, whatever they call that thing. I'm picking against the Orange.
Ooh.
I'm rolling with Clemson, who is in their first year as a team. This is their first year ever playing lacrosse. They're up to number 19 in the nation. Just goes to show how great ACC lacrosse is that the newest team is already a top 20 team. I mean, Clemson continues their excellent first season. We knock off Syracuse. Get a little parity in the women's LAX game.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm just a parody guy. I like Clemson. Big upset over Syracuse. Big plus sign there.
Okay.
Okay.
You went with a home upset. I'm going to go with another home upset.
Ooh.
We got Duke playing Virginia, women's lax.
Yup.
I like the Blue Devils, man. Let's go.
Duke LAX.
Let's go.
Let's go. Love the Duke Blue Devils.
Who cares about home field advantage?
Home field advantage, overrated. Overrated. Who would ever pick a lacrosse team at home? Ridiculous.
Thing.
Oh my gosh, this is irresponsible,
I
really.
know.
I like it. Those are our picks for the weekend. Go watch some women's lacrosse, watch some softball, watch the WNBA draft.
Mm-hmm.
Keep up with us on social media.
Yes, bet responsibly.
Bet responsibly always. We'll see you soon.